This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Whoa, what weather we had. Hail the size of golf balls, torrential rain and wind that toppled trees. Manitobans are cleaning up after a major storm pounded some areas of the province last night. One weather station in Dugald reported a wind gust of 133 kilometers an hour. Selkirk received the highest rainfall totals with more than 100 millimeters. The CBC's Zabina Ahmed caught up with some of the hardest hit Winnipeggers.
It came on in mere seconds. Chris Crond was riding his bike at Garden City Mall when the thunderstorm hit.
I ran and grabbed shelter at the closest spot I could, the fastest spot I could, and from there it escalated pretty quickly to what felt like a tornado. I honestly felt like I was going to probably die at that moment. It was terrifying.
The storm hit hardest in the northeast part of Winnipeg, leading to broken windows and fallen trees. A little too close for comfort for Michael Campbell.
I thought it was going to come through the front window. We've got a big front window, and it narrowly missed coming through the window.
Peeled off some of the paint.
The storm, which lasted about 15 minutes, is taking much longer to clean up. Barb Robson lost her garden.
And now it's just a shredded mess. A shredded mess. All that hard work gone. Can't even enjoy it. This clematis covered the whole wall there. And these were tall too. They were way up there. And this was just full. You couldn't see the ground for flowers. But now that's all you see is the ground.
She's been told to wait 6 to 8 weeks for the insurance assessment.
All the soffit, the eavesdrops, the roofing, the siding, it's all damaged.
The hail destroyed Ryan Kulbaba's gazebo.
These are all the holes up here. It's all just destroyed the whole roof. We've already called the insurance company and they'll be sending out an adjuster in 24 to 48 hours for us. I hope they redo our roof for sure here and the gazebo roof. Those are the two things that are damaged the most.
Marilyn McTurto and her friends got caught in it while riding near the perimeter.
All we could do was just hang on to our bikes and brace ourselves. Thank goodness for full face helmets, because at least our heads were protected. I have bruising happening on my hand. I can't really close it completely right now. I have bruising all over my legs.
As of Friday morning, the city says there were 330 reports of downed trees and broken branches. Manitoba Hydro is still working to return power to hundreds. Zabina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
All that hail could have damaged a lot of vehicles, too. Vehicle owners hoping to make storm damage claims should hurry or they could be out of luck. The Union for Workers at Manitoba Public Insurance says if it doesn't get an agreement over the weekend, its members will strike Monday. 1,700 unionized workers rejected their latest offer from MPI last week. The two sides will bargain throughout the weekend. The COVID-19 pandemic took a heavy toll on many businesses, but one of Winnipeg's biggest companies says its fortune is changing and quickly. CBC's Emily Brass dropped by New Flyer's massive bus manufacturing plant in Transcona to find out what's fueling this boom.
The assembly line is on a roll again at New Flyer. Staff are hustling, putting together high-tech buses. 300 workers laid off at the height of the pandemic have all been called back, and the company's looking for another 87. The union says the mood has shifted.
The tension in here, you could have cut it with a knife just a short 6 months ago. But now things are turning around. Things are turning around for everybody. People are able to pay their bills, support their families.
New Flyer operates around the world, but its headquarters are right here in Winnipeg, and people on this factory floor are working on the shells for custom order buses that'll be used in dozens of cities across North America. Demand for new buses plummeted as people stayed home during the pandemic, but today, buses bound for Vancouver are coming down the factory line, as are some for Toronto.
This isn't your father's bus anymore.
President and CEO Paul Soubry says New Flyer is on the rebound thanks to transit agencies around the world placing big orders for zero-emissions buses. The company has orders for about 10,000 new vehicles worth more than $9 billion Canadian. He says the Winnipeg plant is finally ready to tackle that demand as supply chain issues connected to COVID ease up.
Boy, it feels like we've hit rock bottom. We're on our way back, and it's a pretty exciting time. Just the breath of fresh air in our business.
There are still some roadblocks when it comes to transit infrastructure. An engineer for New Flyer says it's a bit more complicated than just swapping out diesel buses for electric ones.
The transit systems are set up with fast refill times, and it's very difficult to change those from our customers' perspective. So they want the vehicles, the new zero-emission vehicles, to perform the same way as the vehicles that they operate today.
New Flyer says it's now helping transit companies manage their projects to speed up the charge to zero emissions. Emily Brass, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, the provincial election campaign hasn't even officially started, but the promises just keep coming. Today, we got pledges to help tenants afford their rent and one to ensure everyone has a place to call home. The CBC's Ian Fraze brings us the latest from the campaign trail.
The NDP wants Manitobans to come home to affordability.
We need to strike a new balance that tips things back in favor of you, the renters.
Wab Canoe says an NDP government would increase the tax credit for renters from $525 a year to $700. The party would also make it harder for landlords to raise rent higher than the provincial guideline. Right now, landlords have to prove they've made notable improvements to the property, but the oversight body approves virtually all requests from landlords.
We still have to have respect for the landlords who want to maintain properties and invest in them, but we also need to at least have some semblance of balance for people who are struggling to get by.
An NDP government would develop a regulatory process to protect affordable housing. It could stop nonprofit buildings like Lions Place from being sold.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming today.
Meanwhile, the Liberals say chronic homelessness shouldn't end years from now. Dougald Lamont says there's no time to waste.
We have to recognize being homeless for that individual is an emergency. It's not something that can be put off or handled another day.
The Liberals made the ambitious pledge that nobody will sleep in a park or bus shelter by 2025. The party is committing to same-day housing for homeless people. They developed 10,000 housing units, partially by repurposing vacant buildings.
We actually anticipate that this could reduce costs because a day in hospital, the ER, or in police custody can cost between $500 and $1,000 a day, while stable supportive housing may be $40 or $50 a day.
The Liberals will break down the costs when it releases its fully costed platform. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Progressive Conservatives responded by saying they froze rents in 2022 and 23 and extended the rental tax credit to more low-income people. A fire on the roof of a Winnipeg apartment building last week is worse than it first appeared. Now, you'll remember this, smoke pouring from the building last Thursday. At the time, fire officials thought the fire damage was confined mostly to the apartment's roof, with smoke and water damage in several of the building's 18 floors. Well, residents have now received a letter from P3 Realty saying the building is uninhabitable, so their leases have been terminated. Two residents CBC spoke with say it's not clear if they'll ever be able to move back in. They're now looking for a new place to live. Manitoba has confirmed its first case of West Nile virus this year. 3 probable cases are still being investigated. The province says the confirmed case is in a person in their 40s who lives in the Winnipeg area and was hospitalized after experiencing neurological symptoms. A public health investigation determined the person was likely exposed in late June or early July. The province says the risk of exposure to the virus is considered high because weather conditions are favorable for the species of mosquitoes that carries West Nile. You can reduce that risk by wearing mosquito repellent, wearing light-colored and loose clothing, long sleeves and long pants, and reducing time you spend outdoors between dusk and dawn. A Winnipeg ice cream shop is trying to crack the code for the perfect cone of non-dairy ice cream. It all comes down to a key ingredient, a new crop on the prairies that some are saying could be a dairy replacement. Cameron McIntosh has the story.
His ice cream shop is already a Winnipeg institution. Now Justin Jacob is hoping to go a little bigger.
We kind of identified that a lot of people were trying to get non-dairy ice cream.
None of the dairy-free alternatives he found could really match his desired texture or taste, until he partnered with the University of Manitoba to help develop an experimental formula.
This is just like the liquid lupin mix that we pour into the top of the hopper.
The key ingredient? Lupin beans.
From that, we were able to create a milk and then create a kind of a soft serve base out of that.
Lupin is a pulse crop native to the Mediterranean, now starting to be grown and processed in North America. High in protein and fat, being developed and marketed as a dairy alternative.
What we're working on here is the creation of new ingredients that can replace dairy.
When it comes to ice cream, the formula was developed here at the University of Manitoba, where John Thorosky has been experimenting with dairy-free ice cream.
The lupin was basically outstanding. You know, it was better than most of the other stuff that we had tried in terms of texture.
Initial reviews are positive.
It's delicious. It tastes a little bit nutty. Really, the texture is super smooth, a little bit thicker than the typical soft serve ice cream.
Jacob is experimenting with flavors, also hoping to develop a hard ice cream alternative.
We can get it to, even something that's like wholesale that we, can give to other mom and pop ice cream shops like ours to serve as a non-dairy product, then that would be excellent.
Right now, it's one cone at a time. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Riley Lechuk joins us now. We were sitting here last night, John and I, just as the show ended, we heard the thunder. And the start of the show tonight, we saw the damage. You've got more, Riley, on where these storms were. And
and not just isolated to the north part of Winnipeg, Janet, but areas outside the city also getting some very strong winds and some very large hail. I have a bit of a map we can show you now with some of these reports. And if you take a look at this here, these are from last night into the early morning, and you can see here some of the largest hail coming along the north edge of Winnipeg here. So areas like West Kildonan, in a line from West Kildonan through Transcona, getting that golf ball size hail. Just outside the city, Dugald getting quarter-sized hail, and quarter-sized hail also falling up in the Oak Point area. Combine that with the winds here, the strongest winds being reported officially by Environment Canada at Selkirk, 110 kilometers an hour. Those winds through Winnipeg, parts of the Interlake, seeing 90 kilometer an hour gusts. So, yeah, it was a pretty rough storm that rolled through early yesterday evening. In comparison, we have not a lot to talk about today. High pressure dominating. That is clearing our skies out, mainly sunny skies across the province at the moment. And really, things are going to stay like that through much of the weekend as we look at the weekend here. The area of low pressure that did bring us some of those storms has now pushed off into northern Ontario, which is seeing some rain as we get into the evening tonight. But starting Saturday under a mainly sunny sky, a hint of some instability as we move into the evening along the very northern edge of our province, along Hudson Bay. We'll talk about that in a second. But into Sunday, we have mainly sunny skies, some cloud cover as we get into Sunday here. And then I did stop it here because we are expecting some rain with this low pressure system. Could give us, especially through the late afternoon, maybe a rumble of thunder or a shower here in the Red River Valley, even as far north as the Interlake, expecting maybe some of that instability. I think it's a very slim chance at best, though. Starting Monday with a mix of sun and cloud, it's going to be a fairly stable weekend, I think. Looking at rainfall for northern Manitoba, we are expecting to see some rain along the Hudson Bay coast there. So about 10 to 12 millimeters along the Hudson Bay coast. Not a lot to speak of along the rest of southern Manitoba. 19 right now in Winnipeg. Pressure is rising, and looking at the rest of southern Manitoba, we are expecting We're seeing temperatures right now, I should say, in the low 20s, high teens, 21 in Melita this hour. We got up to 22 in Winnipeg this afternoon, 15 in Swan River, 23 in Churchill at the moment. We're at 8 degrees tonight in Winnipeg, a mainly clear sky, winds light at the moment, 11 with a few clouds in the morning tomorrow, and it's a few clouds in the afternoon. Winds a lot lighter tomorrow afternoon than they were today. Southeast at 10, so a pleasant day, and that pleasant day continuing through tomorrow across much of Manitoba. Bit gusty in Churchill, 25 degrees. Otherwise, mid-20s across the northern part of our province. Into the southwest, 23s for Brandon and Morden Winkler, 24s in Dauphin and Swan River. Into the southeast, we're expecting temperatures tomorrow in the low 20s, 24 for Winnipeg, 23 in Emerson. Bright sunshine. We could see mix of sun and cloud really across southern Manitoba tomorrow, and same for northwestern Ontario, Janet. Low 20s, sunshine in Dryden with 21 degrees, and Kenora also 21. Stable weather pattern. I'll talk more about that in your 7-day at the end of the show.
Look, I'll take a stable weather pattern over the hail. Thank you, Riley. Talk to you later. Tonight until 9 p.m., you have the opportunity to witness a Winnipeg first, the first art exhibition featuring solely the work of second and third generation Filipino Manitobans. It's on at the Platform Gallery in the Art Space building. I popped in to see it this afternoon.
I'm co-curator of Katahuan, the art exhibition here run by Cultivation's Art Committee.
What does the name of the exhibition mean?
It translates to personality, but we wanted to kind of elaborate on that through the art pieces that we have installed today.
And as you look around, how do you feel?
Fulfillment, pride. I'm gonna cry because it's just so, like, I don't think it has hit me yet, really. Yesterday when we were setting up, I was like, oh my gosh, like, look at all this fabulous and such sincere art and the immense talent that these young to whatever age artists, like, it's so inclusive and so powerful, and it's just wonderful to see our community in this type of space and scenario for everyone to see.
So sick. This is my first time having like artwork in a gallery, so I was able to like just move it around, you know, like anytime that I'm in an art gallery I can't really touch the work, so this is like the first time I could actually do stuff with it, so it's pretty sick.
How would you describe it?
Well, it's a giant skyflake cracker, you know? It's one of the best snacks that you can have, you know? That's one of the things that like I came home to from school and just, you know, picked up, peeled it open and just had.
Every Filipino home has these?
Yeah, pretty much. And like if you go to like a Filipino store, you'll see tons of boxes of them just because, you know, it's like a staple.
Why did you change the name?
It's kind of like a take on like the Filipino accent and how we pronounce things. So like, you know, it's a skyflake, but with the, I don't know.
Said in a Filipino accent. Being able to present my work here for the very first time is like, I'm so like, oh, I can't believe it, kind of a feeling.
Definitely surreal.
Definitely
surreal. Yeah.
Once everyone starts coming through those doors, I think that will really, I don't know, it gives me chills.
So exciting. Still ahead tonight, the Prime Minister went to British Columbia today, the Okanagan region, to get an update on the wildfires that have been burning. We'll bring you the latest on the situation after the break. You're watching CBC. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was in the Okanagan region of British Columbia today to get an in-person update on the fires that are burning there. While some residents are now allowed to return to their properties, thousands are still not allowed to do that, displaced by fires raging in the area. Renee Filipponi has the latest.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau started his tour of the central Okanagan with a stop at the West Bank First Nation, one of the communities hit by the McDougall Creek fire that tore into the region a week ago. Nearly 4,500 people are still out of their homes, and hundreds don't have homes to go back to. Trudeau thanked firefighters and sent his sympathies to those who have lost everything. But he also acknowledged that lessons can be learned going forward.
There's a lot more to learn and there's a lot more to do. We know, unfortunately, extreme weather events are going to get more frequent, more extreme in the years to come, and we have to learn very much from what worked, also what didn't work as well as it could have, and put that in place.
There is frustration for many that it's taking too long to get back into their homes, but officials say they need to make sure neighborhoods are safe and want to prevent the need for evacuating a second time if things pick up again. With the cool weather and rain in recent days, crews have been able to get a handle on the fires and have used planned ignitions, deliberately burning fuel that could spark fires in the hot weather forecast this weekend.
Going into the next few days, however, we are expecting the weather to continue to be seasonal. So that's that warm temperatures, those dry conditions that you expect in August. With the potential for lightning in a couple of areas of the province. So while we'll take all the rain that we can get, we're certainly not out of the woods yet in terms of the weather conditions that we would like to really support bringing all those fires under control.
The other major fire in the province is the Bush Creek East fire in the North Shuswap. There is no timeline on when the thousands of evacuees will be able to go back home as crews continue to tackle that major fire. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, Vancouver.
An apology today from descendants of one of the biggest slave owners in what was the British West Indies.
It is with deep shame and regret that we acknowledge our ancestors' involvement in this crime, and with heartfelt sincerity that we apologise to the descendants of the enslaved in Guyana. In so doing, we acknowledge slavery's continuing impact on the daily lives of many.
The descendants were in Guyana to say John Gladstone's actions in the early 1800s were a crime against humanity. Gladstone owned more than 2,500 slaves in British Guyana and Jamaica. He brutally killed some of them. The family is funding projects related to the legacy of slavery, but the president of Guyana says those who profited from the slave trade should offer to pay reparations. A familiar item will soon be wiped off my desk and your store shelves. Kleenex is going to stop being sold in Canada. The company that produces it says it's going to stop selling it here. Kimberly-Clark attributes its decision to what it calls unique complexities in the business. Analysts say profit margins in the Kleenex business were thin to begin with, and inflation likely has consumers choosing cheaper options whenever they can. The company says its other products, including Cottonelle, Huggies, Poise, Depend, will still be available in Canada, but no more Kleenex. Kleenex was launched as a handkerchief substitute back in the 1930s. It's been the world's top-selling facial tissue ever since. Well, you might have felt like grabbing a Kleenex if you saw this last night. This was shot in Inkster Gardens. Thank you, Julie, for sending it. That's hail. It looks like a snowstorm, doesn't it? This is what parts of northwest Winnipeg looked like last night around this time as that wild weather pounded us. Hopefully, there's nothing more like this going to happen in the next week. Riley Lachuk brings us his 7-day forecast after the break. A daily lift still to come as well.
Much more calmer, much more seasonal weekend on the way. 24 in Winnipeg tomorrow, mix of sun and cloud. Slim chance of an afternoon shower on Sunday and 25 degrees into Monday. 21 with a mix of sun and cloud, and that's kind of the pattern we see happening here for the next 7 days. Chance of showers on Friday again, and sunny 25 degrees coming up next Friday. Well, a teen from France who is blind and also has physical disabilities has made it to the list of world firsts.
Here, my friends, is your daily lift. This really brave 17-year-old successfully completed a tandem wingsuit jump from that helicopter. He jumped at an altitude higher than 4,800 meters. That's close to 16,000 feet. And then soared at speeds faster than 250 kilometers an hour. Wow. Oh, I want to see a smile. Come on, that harness was specially adapted to let him fly tandem. And there's the smile. Amazing, Riley. Imagine flying at that speed, 250 kilometers an hour.
Far more brave than I am.
Have a fabulous weekend, everybody. See you on Monday.